Hi, my name's Tim. I'm the lead developer behind Barkeep, and in this video, I'll be giving you an overview of Barkeep and a demo of the iPad version of BarkeepApp. There are two main components to Barkeep, BarkeepApp and Barkeep Online. BarkeepApp is an iOS app. It costs $40. You buy it from the iTunes App Store, and it works just like any iOS app. You get, for the $40 is a one-time fee, you get free upgrades, and you can install it on multiple devices as long as all of those devices connect to the App Store using the same Apple ID. So you can pay once and then download the app to your iPad, your iPhone, and your bar manager's iPhone, that sort of thing. Now, in order to share data between multiple iOS devices with Barkeep, if you want to install it on multiple devices and share your data across all those devices, then you need a Barkeep Online account. The only way to share Barkeep data between multiple devices is with a Barkeep Online account. Barkeep Online is a hosted cloud-based service. It costs $25 per month or $250 a year. You access it from any browser, so you just log into your Barkeep Online account from your browser, and there's no software to install on your computer. It's optional. You can use BarkeepApp without signing up for a Barkeep Online account, but with Barkeep Online, you get a lot of additional features. With Barkeep Online, you can run a pour cost report, so you can see how much liquor you used compared to your sales, so your pour cost percentage. And you can also determine whether or not you're losing any liquor. It'll compare how much liquor you should have used based on your sales data to how much you actually used based on your inventory data and what the difference is between the two. You can also generate liquor orders based on your par levels. You can share data between multiple iOS devices, and of course all of your data is backed up on our servers. Now I'm going to give you a demo of BarkeepApp. This is BarkeepApp running on an iPad. When you first get BarkeepApp, it'll come by default with about 150 items, some default categories, and default locations. So when you first get the app, you'll want to set it up to match your needs. So let's go ahead and start looking at the items. So if I touch items, it'll bring up my item list. Now, items are the things that you carry in inventory. It's things like 1 liter bottles of Absolute or kegs of Bud Light, that sort of thing. So if I select Absolute, I can see the details of Absolute. So it has a category, which is called liquor. It's 1 liter of bottles, comes in cases of 12. It has a default price, full and empty bottle weight, and a barcode. Now, you want your item list to only have the things that you care about. You don't want a bunch of stuff in there that you don't actually carry in inventory. So when you first get the app, you'll want to delete any items in there that you don't care about, and then add the stuff that you carry that weren't in there by default. So when you add items to your item list, you can either add them manually or add them by searching our online database. In addition to the items that are in your item list by default, we have an online database of about 75,000 items. We recommend that when you add items to your item list, you first search our online database to see if it's in our database, and if it is, add it from there rather than add it manually. And we recommend that because by default, you'll get a bunch of default information and you won't have to enter it manually. So let's start by searching for, let's say, Grey Goose. So I choose the search field and I start typing gray for Grey Goose, and you can see I have several Grey Goose items here. Now let's say that I want to carry 750 milliliter bottles of Grey Goose. I can go ahead and hit search Barkeep's online database, and that's going to go off and search our database of 75,000 items and bring back anything that has gray in the name. So here we have our 750 milliliter bottles of Grey Goose. I'm going to select it and hit save, and now that adds 750 milliliter bottles of Grey Goose to my item list. I'm going to select that, and you can see that by default I have it gives me the size, it gives me a case count, I can see that I have a full and empty bottle weight and a barcode and all that kind of stuff associated with it by default. So it's better to add things by searching our database rather than by adding it manually. Now, of course, I could add an item manually. I could go manually create new item, and then I can type in the name for it, ABC, whatever. I can set the bottle size and full and empty bottle weight and all that kind of stuff. But it's just a lot easier if you add it by searching our database so that you don't have to enter all that information yourself. So the first thing you would want to do is set up your items, and then you can go ahead and set up your categories. Now, categories are just a way of grouping things together. There's actually two levels of categories. There's category groups and categories. By default, Barkeep comes with the category groups beer, liquor, wine, and miscellaneous. And those are broken down into categories like domestic bottled beer, domestic draft beer, premium bottled beer, premium draft, etc. For liquor, we break it down by level, like call, premium, and well. But you can customize this however you want. So a lot of people want to track their liquor by level, like well, premium, and call. But a lot of people prefer to track it by liquor type. So you might want to track it by rum, tequila, vodka, that sort of thing. So it's entirely up to you. I can go down here and hit the plus to create a new category, hit add category, and I can add a category named rum and put it in the category group liquor, hit save, and now I can start tracking things by rum. So I could put rum, tequila, vodka, stuff in there, and then delete, call, premium, well, that sort of thing. Once you've set up your categories, you would want to set up your locations. Now, locations are meant to be locations within a single venue. A location isn't meant to be restaurant 1, restaurant 2, restaurant 3. It's meant to be locations within a venue. So locations might be your walk-in cooler or your storage room, the main bar. Maybe you have a patio bar or something. So the locations are whatever makes sense to you. Now, if you want, you can track everything in one location. You could just have a location called My Bar and put everything in there. We recommend that you at least have a couple of basic locations like your storage room, your walk-in cooler, and your main bar, only because it makes it easier to, once you've finished an inventory, to track down problems. So let's say, for example, that your inventory data for Absolute looks way off for some reason, and you want to go back and look at your inventory and see if you might have made a mistake. If you see an entry in there that says that there are 5 cases of Absolute behind the main bar, it's a lot easier to find things that just don't make sense. Like, why would you have 5 cases of Absolute behind the main bar? It wouldn't make sense. So that might have meant 5 bottles instead of 5 cases. So if you've tracked things by location, it can be easier to find errors later on. But again, it's entirely up to you. You can have 10 locations, 1 location, whatever makes sense to you. Once you've set up your items, categories, and locations, then you're ready to start taking inventory. To take inventory, you press Inventories, press the plus button to start a new inventory, and then press Start Inventory. Now it brings up my item list. You start by choosing your location. So let's say I'm going to start counting in the storage room. So I choose storage as my location, and then you start adding items to your inventory. When you add items to an inventory, you can add them by name or by scanning. So let's start by name. I choose the search field and I start typing the name. So let's start typing Grey Goose. And you can see with each character that I pressed, the list narrowed down, and usually within 2 or 3 letters, the product that you're looking for is on the screen. So I can add my 750 milliliter bottles of Grey Goose, enter 2 bottles, and hit add. Now maybe the next thing is Herradura. So I start typing HER. There's my Herradura, 3 bottles, add. Now Jameson, JAM. There's my Jameson, 4 bottles, add. So when you're adding by name, you just start typing the name. It narrows down the list. You select the product, enter the quantity, hit add, and then start typing the next name. It's really, really fast and really efficient. But you can also add items by scanning the barcode. So if I get rid of the search screen and press the scan button, it's going to bring up the camera on my iPad. Now I have a bottle of Bombay Sapphire here. So I hold it in front of my camera, scans the barcode, and brings up Bombay Sapphire. Now I enter my quantity, hit add, and it automatically goes right back to the camera so you can scan the next barcode. Enter the quantity, hit add, scan the next barcode. Enter the quantity, hit add, scan the next barcode. So it's really fast and works really well. Now, in addition to adding things using the camera, we also offer a laser barcode scanner. There's a device called a Linea Pro, which is a laser barcode scanner. It's a little cradle that you slide an iPhone or iPod Touch into, and it has a laser barcode scanner. So you press the button on the side of the scanner, it scans the barcode, and it's pretty much instantaneous. Now, the Linea Pro is $500. And what I usually recommend to people is go ahead and try entering things by name and scanning using the camera. And then if you decide that you want to scan barcodes and the camera isn't fast enough for you, or you have extreme low light situations where the camera doesn't work, or you just want it to be faster, then go ahead and buy the Linea Pro. But it's completely optional. You don't feel like you have to buy the Linea Pro and spend the $500. You can try Barkeep without it and then decide whether it's worth the money to you to upgrade to the scanner. When you're adding items to an inventory, whether you're adding them by name or by scanning, either way, there's a bunch of different ways that you can enter the quantities. So if I'm entering my Bombay Sapphire, if I have all full bottles, I can just enter them, like 3 bottles, 5 bottles, 8 bottles, whatever. But if I have partial bottles, I can enter those in a couple different ways. I can enter partial bottles by looking at it and saying, okay, my Bombay Sapphire bottle here is about 80% full. So I can enter it as 0.8 and hit add. I can also look at it and say, okay, this bottle is about half full and there's 2 full bottles behind it. So I can enter that as 2.5. So you can enter any combination that's, a combination of full and empty bottles using decimal notation. You can also weigh partial bottles. So if I want to enter it by weight, I select the weight option, and then I weigh my bottle on a scale, and then I can enter the weight manually. So I'm going to enter 60.8 ounces and hit add. Now, when you're entering the weight manually, you can enter it as ounces, kilograms, grams, pounds and ounces. There's a bunch of different formats that you can use. Mine is just set up to enter by ounces, but under settings in the app, you can choose your weight format and enter it whatever makes sense for your scale. In addition to entering the weight manually, we do offer a Bluetooth scale. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my scale on. And once my scale is on, if I select weight, you can see that a little Bluetooth icon shows up next to the quantity field. So that means that Barkeep has automatically detected a Bluetooth scale nearby. So now I'm going to put my partial bottle of Bombay Sapphire on my Bluetooth scale, and you'll see that it automatically pulled the weight of the scale, which was 51.57 ounces, from the scale. So I didn't have to enter anything. I didn't have to do anything. I just choose my item, put the bottle on the scale, and it pulls the weight from it automatically. Now, this is the one piece of optional hardware that I highly recommend. If you plan to enter partial bottles by weight, then I recommend getting the Bluetooth scale. It costs $100, but it's really, really fast and accurate, and you don't have to worry about typos and that kind of thing. So I recommend getting the scale if you want to enter partial bottles by weight. Now, you don't have to be consistent. So you don't have to weigh everything. So for example, let's say that you have a small amount of premium liquor that's really expensive and you're really worried about that. You could weigh the partial bottles of premium liquor and then enter the call and well liquor using like 0.8, 0.35, whatever, by eyeballing it. So you can use a combination and only weigh the ones that you're really worried about, or you can weigh them all or enter them all using decimal notation, whatever makes sense to you. The one thing I would recommend doing in terms of weight is weighing kegs. Kegs are very, very difficult to estimate, and the only way to be at all accurate when you're dealing with draft beer is to weigh the kegs. We do not offer a Bluetooth scale to weigh kegs. The only scales that are out there that are Bluetooth that can handle a keg are big industrial scales that are really, really expensive. But there are a bunch of postal scales that are designed to weigh packages that you're shipping, and they're in the range of $50 to $100. So I would recommend getting a postal scale and then manually entering the weight of kegs rather than trying to enter them through Bluetooth or something. If you check out our website, BarkeepApp.com, and go to hardware, we'll have some links for postal scales that work well with Barkeep. In addition to weight, you can enter a quantity as cases. So if I choose cases, I can say that I have 2 cases of Bombay Sapphire, and you can see that it shows that I have 2 cases of 12 1 liter bottles of Bombay Sapphire. So I can hit add and add my 2 cases. When you're entering quantities by case, this case of 12 is the default case size for this item. So each item has a default case size. So for Absolute, it might be 12. For Grey Goose, it might be 6. For Bud Light, it's probably 24. So you set the default case size, and whenever you add a quantity by case, it will automatically choose that default case size. So now you can override that. Let's say this time, for some reason, I got Bombay Sapphire in cases of 6. So I can go ahead and edit this and change a 12 to a 6, and now I'm telling Barkeep that I have 2 cases of 6 bottles of Bombay Sapphire. Now when I go in and add it again, it's going to go back to my default case size. So again, you can override it in each entry. If I want to change the default, then I can press a little info icon next to Bombay Sapphire. That will take me to the definition of Bombay Sapphire, and I can go in here and change the default case size. So I can go and say, okay, from now on, I always want to receive Bombay Sapphire in cases of 6. I've shown you the different ways that you can add items to an inventory in Barkeep. Now let me show you the different inventory types. This is a full inventory. A full inventory is when you count the amount of product that you have on hand at a particular point in time. A receiving inventory is when you receive product from your supplier. It should basically match up to your invoices. A return inventory is when you return product to your supplier, and it basically acts as a negative receiving inventory. A waste inventory is for product that's broken or thrown away. So if you drop and break a bottle of Absolute or throw away a half a bottle of wine that went bad, you could add those to a waste inventory. An empties inventory is if you want to count your empty bottles at the end of the night. Some people like to track their empties and have bartenders create empties inventories every night. Now, an empties inventory is completely optional. It won't affect your usage or pour cost or anything like that. But basically, if you run a usage report, Barkeep will show you your empties count next to your usage count. And typically, if you're tracking your empties, then your empties count should be close to your usage count, within a bottle or two. And if they're way off, then that might indicate some kind of problem. But again, empties are completely optional. You do not have to create empties inventories, but if you like having your bartenders track the empties at the end of the night, they can do that by creating empties inventories. A transfer inventory is when you transfer product between 2 locations. You do not have to track transfers, it's optional. However, when you run a usage report in Barkeep, you can run a usage report by category or a usage report by location. If you run a usage report by location, then you can track your usage by each individual location. So you can tell how much liquor was used behind the main bar, how much was used from the patio bar, that sort of thing. If you want to track your liquor usage by location, then you have to track transfers. Because let's say you receive a case of Absolute into the liquor room, and then you move 2 bottles of Absolute from the liquor room to the main bar, and then sell it out of the main bar. If you don't track in Barkeep that the liquor was moved from the storage room to the main bar, then you're not going to know what your liquor usage was from the main bar. It's not going to make sense. So if you want to track your liquor usage by location, then you have to track your transfers. And let me show you how to do that. If I set this inventory type to a transfer inventory, then you can see that there's a from location that you can set. This tells Barkeep that the liquor in this inventory is being transferred from that location. So let's go ahead and edit that and choose storage room. So now everything in this inventory is being transferred from the storage room. And then as I add things to the inventory, it's going to be transferred from the storage room to that location. So let me choose main bar, Absolute, 2 bottles. Now I'm saying that I transferred 2 bottles of Absolute from the liquor room or from the storage room to the main bar. Now let me show you how to run reports in BarkeepApp. So if you go to the BarkeepApp main screen and press reports, it'll bring up the list of reports that you can run. An items report is just your item list. A detail report will have every line item for every entry that you made in a single inventory. A summary report will add up all of everything in an inventory and show you how much of each item you have in that inventory. And then a usage report will show you your usage between two inventories. Let me run a usage report. So I select usage report, and then I can enter or choose a starting inventory, and then choose an ending inventory, and press run report. Now the usage report is going to show me how much liquor was used between two inventories. So you can see it has a starting count, how much was received, waste, how much I ended with, how much was used, and the cost. And then if you scroll down to the bottom, you can see that it has the grand total for the total usage and cost for all items across between these two inventories. Now, a report in BarkeepApp is generated as an Excel spreadsheet that gets attached to an email, and then you can email it to yourself. So once you email it to yourself, you can open it in Excel and you can print it out or play around with the numbers or whatever. So reports in BarkeepApp are generated as Excel spreadsheets that get attached to an email, and you email it to yourself. Well, that's it for this demo of BarkeepApp. If you have any questions, you can give us a call at 888-309-9928 or send us email at support@barkeepapp.com, and be sure to check out some of our other videos. Thank you and have a good day.